is 9 o'clock on the dot tonight. It's Tuesday night. That means it's time for another Get Off My Lawn podcast. My name is John. I'll be your host tonight as usual. And also as usual, we've got Sandhills sweetheart sitting off to the camera's right. You can't see her, but she is in the producer's chair, making sure that I don't screw things up too badly and that I don't miss too many of the comments or anything like that. So, you know how that works. Yeah, her speakers are on. That's cool. You know how it works. Drop us comments out there in the live chat, either on YouTube or on Facebook right now. And I was thinking I could get my Facebook feed to come up, but I'm not sure how to make that happen. Oh, there we go. There, we'll pause that. That should let the comments show up there. Okay, so we are rocking and rolling on Facebook. We're rocking and rolling on YouTube. So leave us those comments, and Sandhills Sweetheart will respond to those. You know how it works. Like I started to say, she does the typing and I do the talking, although sometimes I type, but I can't type and listen or type and talk at the same time. That's why we divide and conquer. We are the best team in the world, if you ask me, because she's everything I'm not, which means she's a lot. All right, so we've got a few people in our panel. Before we get to introduce those folks, let's just look over here and see who we have with us. On the YouTube side, we've got Nighthawk Medic out there and in here. Of course, Sandhills Sweetheart holding it down. Republican River Rat is there and here. G23 Patriot in the Dark is out there. Let me adjust that just a little bit. Okay. Who else do I have that I'm not noticing yet? Iron Horseman is in the house. Justin Gibbons, Keith Gregory, James Allen. All right. And I know there will be quite a few more joining us as we go along. What's up, Blitz? I see you. All right. So on the panel, we have got some of the usual suspects, and then we've also got somebody that you have not seen before. So we'll just kind of go around the horn a little bit here, and we'll start off with Pat Hirsch. What's up tonight, Pat? How's it going over there in the southern part of the state?
Oh, going pretty good. Just been doing a little bit of shooting and getting some new people into the realm of guns in the last couple weeks, and with the help of John Petrolino and his new book that he has got out, and we had on that you had on here a couple weeks ago, which is very good, just even as a refresher for us people that have been in it for a while. So yeah, everything's been going pretty good. Can't complain. Thanks for having me on, John.
Awesome. You bet. I haven't gotten to do much shooting here in way too long, but partly because I just wussed out. I was going to go Sunday, and then after I got done mowing, I just decided I'm not going to the range. It is way too hot to do what I need to do at the range, which I know I need to practice and do some pistol work. But what I need to do is go sight in a couple scopes on some rifles where I swapped some scopes around. And so that needs to be done, but it was too hot to do all that stuff. So I just waited. Now I'm probably going to have to go on Thursday. I've got the day off, and it's not going to be any cooler, but I'll just have to tough it out, I guess. I just want to get it done. Plus, you know, I love pulling triggers. It's fun. All right, Pat, thanks for joining us. Next up, also in the great state of Nebraska, over in the capital city, we've got Defense Dad. What's going on?
Evening. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to a good show again tonight.
Well, so am I. Thanks for being here. All righty. And then we've also got Nighthawk Medic Shoots joining us from over there on that eastern part of the world.
Hey, Sand, thanks for having me in. It's always amazing to be here, and I look forward to the show.
Well, and I look forward to hearing what everybody has to say tonight, too. And then last but certainly not least, and possibly not last, I sent a lot of links out, and we've got room for 5 more people. So we'll see who else joins us as the night goes. But we're going to go ahead and introduce this guy, and we're going to do a little bit different thing. I got a new panelist, but we're not going to make him like our featured guest. He's just going to get thrown in and just have a seat at the table like everybody else does tonight. But he is the host of the Stop Gun Bans podcast, which he records every week, almost every week anyway. And he is currently located in Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada. So Michael Zubik, what's up, Mike?
How's it going, everybody? Glad to be here. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
You betcha.
Looking forward to a good show.
Thanks for joining us. All righty. So,
and real quick, you'll be doing my show this week on Friday, too. So, shameless plug, everybody. If you like Sandhills, which of course you do because you're here, tune in to Stop Gun Bands come Friday. Any podcast you like, we'll be there.
There's two reasons people tune into this. It's either because they love me or they love to hate me. I'm not sure which ones are which all the time, but you know what? As long as you're watching and listening, that's all I really care about. So, all righty. Hey, Blitz says he's got a new 1080p camera. Did you get a link, Blitz? If you didn't, I'll make sure you get one. We'll send one out to you. So holler at me if you didn't get a link, because I don't remember who all gets one in my list and who doesn't. So we can have you jump in here if you want to. Anyway, all righty. Enough about that stuff. So as I was reading that, I think you mentioned this, but Michael, where can people find you if they want to find the Stop Gun Bands podcast? Where can you be reached? And I know it's a lot of different places.
Well, we're typically broadcasting on Anchor, and what Anchor does is you can find us on iTunes, Google. What's that other one called? Everybody use Spotify. Basically, anywhere a podcast is found, after I hit publish on Anchor, you can find it all over. If you're just looking for a link, though, if you come to our Facebook page, whenever it drops, I'll put a bunch of links out. So check on Friday. If I have a show that week, all the links will be there. But it's just called Stop Gun Bands. Everywhere you go to look for it. It's pretty hard to miss. All
righty. So for those of you that can't see the screen right now, it's just facebook.com/stopgunbands. And is that all one word, or are there spaces in there when you type that in?
All one word.
All right.
Make it easy.
Facebook.com/stopgunbands, and you can find it whenever there is a link to drop. And yeah, we have plans on recording something this week that I believe you said that's probably going to drop on Friday. Is that your normal day to drop the podcast is on Friday?
Usually.
Okay, cool.
It might come really late overnight Thursday, but it generally drops on Fridays.
Okay, cool. All righty. So there, you heard it here first. Go check that out if you have not been over to Stop Gun Bands. And then, do you do anything on the YouTube side yet, or is that something that you have not gotten into so far?
It's experimental at the moment. We've got a channel, but the videos are just messing around at the moment. But it'll grow soon enough.
Is that the same name, Stop Gun Bands?
Yes.
With or without spaces on YouTube?
Ooh, good question. I'm pretty sure we put the spaces on the YouTube. But
okay, so
as far as accessing it, no spaces.
Okay, so go check that out. Stop Gun Bands on YouTube as well. Let's grow him some subscribers so that he's got incentive to turn the camera on and do more stuff than just the podcast. And I say just the podcast. You know what? It's not just a podcast. I mean, that can take a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of effort, a lot of research and all kinds of fun stuff there too. So it's not like it's not a big deal. But you know, everybody in here, with the possible exception of yourself, is kind of big into doing YouTube videos, or at least watching them. So we're going to try and drag you kicking and screaming into our world now.
Nothing wrong with that. This is the future after all.
That's right. That's right. You know, and it's funny, and I want to mention this. And it kind of, everything that I have to mention tonight kind of goes under the same topic of the keeping your hands to yourself, and everything can be tied back into that concept, really. But I know a lot of people say, hey, you know, we need to grow sites like Gunstream, we need to grow sites like guntube.org or YouTube or Parler or some of these other sites that are for video hosting or social media and things like that. And that is absolutely true. We need to grow those sites. Okay. But at the same time, I want to be on YouTube as long as I can be on YouTube, which means that even though they've got rules that I don't necessarily see the merit, I'm going to have to follow their rules if I want to be here. But it's so important to stay on these more mainstream social media channels as long as we can, because I know a lot of people out there are thinking, well, you know, if YouTube's going to act like that, then who needs them, right? If Facebook's going to act like that, if Twitter's going to act like that, then who needs them? We don't need them. But we do. We do need them, and here's why. Because there are going to be people that stumble across this one day that weren't looking for it. Somebody that was on YouTube because they were watching crazy cat videos, or crazy videos where people, try to flip their skateboard and they biff the landing and they, compound fracture in their leg or something like that. Something like that is eventually going to lead people to other stuff because there's always suggested videos. And you might get on YouTube looking for a video how to fix your 2007 Jeep, and you might find a guy named Travis P11 on there with a Jeep video, and then you start looking at his other stuff that gets suggested, and you're like, well, what's this about how to clean a Ruger SR 1911? What's that? What's a Ruger SR 1911? So they watch that and they find out that he knows how to make videos about firearms and stuff like that, and they're like, well, this guy's a Jeep guy. I mean, he's not completely nuts. Maybe there's something, maybe not all gun owners are wackadoos, and it could be something as simple as that. It really could. Being on YouTube is important because we have the potential to reach so many people, not only the ones that are looking for us, but the ones that just stumble across us. And so not only that, but some of those other sites, people don't necessarily know what they are or have heard of them yet. And just to go and watch the videos, you can just go watch videos on Gunstreamer. You don't have to be a member or anything like that. But how many people do you know that don't have a Gmail? There's just not that many that don't have a Gmail. And so, so just being able to jump in and just immerse yourself in the world of YouTube and find all these videos, and you never know what one's going to lead to the next, and just kind of go from there. So that's why it's so important to be able to stay on these platforms, or I guess I don't know if they're a platform or a publisher or what they are. They're confused at the moment too. They identify as both. Which creates its own problems. We'll get into that maybe one night, but that's why it's so important. We've also got another panelist joining us here, coming to us from Central Texas. Well, kind of North Central. I don't know. Close to the hill country, isn't it? Is Dallas the hill country? I don't know. Everything's bigger in Texas. That's all I know. I've been there twice. But we've got Yehuda Reamer, also known as the Pew Pew Jew, jumping in here and joining us. What's up, man?
Not much. How are you?
Oh, just hanging in here and enjoying another Tuesday night where we get to, at least for now, we get to exercise our First Amendment rights to talk about our Second Amendment rights and a few others too.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. All righty. So I don't know if you are familiar yet with Michael Zubik or the Stop Gun Bans podcast, but he is joining our panel for the first time ever.
Cool.
And technically, you're joining us for the second time ever. So welcome back.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'm glad you dropped in. That's awesome. That's what I do. I send a link out to a whole bunch of people, and then the ones that jump in.
Pew Pew Jew.
How are you?
From the tribe. Good. How are you? Aren't you the guy that did a review on a P-38? That you like to carry one despite being Jewish?
That would be me, yes.
Because I also carry one despite being Jewish. It's a good thing to have.
Hell yeah.
And you get to stick it to the old enemy by carrying it. So why not?
100%.
Amen to that.
It's a pleasure to meet you. That's why I had to chime in. Sorry to cut you off, Sandhills.
Nope, you're all right. You're all right.
I've heard about Pew Pew all over the place, and to be sitting on the same panel with him, it's truly an honor to be here, guys. Thank you again.
And you know what? Just having all five of you join my panel, I mean, I'm blessed just having people that want to come and hang out with me week in and week out, and then a few people that are famouser even than Captain Kangaroo every now and then jump in here. So yeah, that's even better. For those of you that are less than 20 years old, that was a Forrest Gump movie reference. So anyway, I can't believe how long it's been since that movie came out.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Nice.
Insurance to fit your business online right now.
Sorry.
Hey, you're getting Facebook video or YouTube videos or something going on there?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Friggin' A. I'm trying to log into the YouTube page.
Oh, it's all right. Don't worry about it. It's live broadcasting. That's what happens. Everybody has technology. We all been there. All righty. So I want to talk tonight about it's kind of a simple concept, but it is something that applies to literally every part of our lives. And it is not necessarily a song written by Dan Baird. For those of you that aren't in the musical world, he was the one of the founders of the Georgia Satellites who sang the song "Keep Your Hands to Yourself." I'm not just talking about no huggy, no kissy until I get a wedding ring. Okay, I'm talking about the notion that that my rights end where yours begin, and I
Ooh.
don't have the right to tell you how to live your life as an American. I don't have that right unless I am raising you. If you're a tiny human that I created, then I would have the right to tell you how to live your life, at least for a certain part of it at the beginning. But after that, when you're a grown up again, I don't have the right to force you to live your life a certain way. So there's a lot of things that we can get into, and we'll get into some gun stuff and everything else too. But the one that's happening right now, I mean, this is August 25th as we do this live, 2020. And so in a couple of years, hopefully we will have forgotten about this. I don't know if we will or not. But right now, the big coronavirus pandemic is in full force. And I'm not going to get in too much as far as conspiracy theories tonight and getting into, what's true, what's not, what's been blown out of proportion. But the fact of the matter is that we've got governors, we've got mayors, and we've got some presidential hopefuls even that say they will do this. But we've got a few areas of the country right now that have a mandated mask order. If you are out in public, you have got to cover your face. If you are if you're in Nebraska, you don't have to do that unless you are in, as far as I know, Lincoln or Omaha. I think those are the only two areas in my state that have a mask mandate. In Lincoln, I know it's inside any public building. I don't think it's mandated outside or outdoors yet, and not in private residences, obviously. But any public building, which means any business, any store, marketplace, things like that. Apparently in Michael's house, there is a mask mandate, but he is complying, so that's good.
I'm just trolling you guys.
So here's the thing, though, is, I mean, at what point did the land of the free and the home of the brave turn into the place where somebody can make you cover your face because they're afraid that they might get a disease that they have a 99.9% chance of living if they catch it? I mean, how did we get here so fast? Which we could probably have, 3 nights discussion just on how we got here so fast, honestly. But I'm not going to go around the horn. I'm just going to let people we'll roundtable this and jump in. Try not to walk on each other, of course, but just kind of jump in. I just want to know, first of all, just everybody's thoughts on a mask mandate. Are you okay with the notion? And I'm not talking about private businesses saying that you have to have a mask to shop there. We'll go there next. But right now, I'm just talking about the governor or the mayor, or potentially if Joe Biden becomes president, there may be a presidential lockdown or mask order or something like that's nationwide. So what do you guys all have to say just as far as mask mandates in general? And furthermore, for those of you that aren't in, well, even the ones in Nebraska, I mean, I know how you're both going to answer, but do you have a mask mandate where you live now?
So I'd like to start this with Sandhill because
Okay.
I remember really watching this happen with the start of the Patriot Act. And if you remember the most famous quote by Thomas Jefferson, any society or people that would give up a little freedom for a little security will eventually have neither nor deserve neither. And I watched the Patriot Act go into effect while we were fighting to defend the homeland from that threat. So the president of the United States used his executive power to draw freedom away. And it's been a continually deteriorating line since then. And mentally, our population has been degraded to the point where they're willing to submit to things that would be considered outright tyrannous. And barring going down kind of that rabbit hole of extremism, taking away cash, covering people's faces, these are the behaviors that we see from our enemies to control the minds of people that they consider to be lesser members of their society. You see it present in world religions and things of that nature to begin to degrade self within the individuals of a population to remove individuality. I know that there are groups of people in my home state, Tennessee, who have decided that when this mask mandate ends, they will not wear a mask again from that point forward, even under penalty of law. We have stores and restaurants here that have mandated that mask, but will bring things out to the curb, and they're going to be forcing those stores to do that rather than comply. So I think it's a good way to sort out who's willing to comply and who's willing not to comply and who's willing to sacrifice their freedom.
Nope. Very, very good points. All right. Who else wants to jump in there?
We do have a mask mandate in Nevada. We are a blue state. Las Vegas is a blue county and blue city. When March 17th came around, I was sitting on a dice table dealing, and they told us we'd be closing the casino at midnight for a 2-week setup to flatten the curve. I believe we can all recall about that 2-week curve.
Uh-huh.
And it turned out to be about 4 months before anybody got to go back to work. I have not been called back yet. And what has happened is nowadays you can go back to the casino, which is only at 2/3 capacity. Us dealers are waiting for our coworkers to get sick so we can get called in to fill their shifts. It's that bad. But what I've noticed is when they reopen, they all issued face shields and masks to their dealers. And I'm a dice dealer, so generally I have the same group of people playing all night. It's a full game, 16 people with 3 dealers running the game. And what I'm seeing happening is even with the face shields, even with the masks, because everybody's on top of each other on that particular table, all the dice dealers are getting sick first. So I'm not saying masks don't work, which most of them don't, but they do and they don't, if you know what I mean. Like, they'll help you not spread it. But at the same time, if you're going to be inside someone's bubble like that for an extended amount of time, what's the point? And the fact is, we're only allowed to rerun on 2/3 capacity. We've got topless pools. Sorry, I know it's PG-13, but they're wearing masks, but nothing up top. So that's literally what the rule is. So a lot of it just makes no sense. And there's the best example I've seen, though, is that you could go to a place like Florida and you have to wear it in your own house. That's why I put it on in my house. I've got family who also likes to go spend a lot of time in Florida. So at some point, it's going to go from to the casinos to too far. And what we're seeing is in the casinos, it's not working. So I don't see what the point is. I followed Corona from November when I started seeing live streams coming out of China of people in Wuhan dropping dead in the street. And I thought it was going to be a bigger deal than it was. And it turned out, what is it? 0.004% are definitely going to die from it. Now, I understand that's a lot of numbers we're talking about when you have a country of almost 400 million people. Like, for example, though, in Nevada, before we reopened, we had 6 total cases in the state. And then the day we reopened, we jumped up from 6 to 60-something thousand with 800 deaths. So, I mean, do the math. It kills as many as a bad flu season. So it just seems to be much ado about nothing. And why are we keeping our economy shut down over a virus that most people don't even know they're getting? And that's really all I had to chime in about as far as the mask thing goes. So,
well, and stepping away from masks for just a second, my biggest issue right now, I shouldn't say biggest, but one of my big issues right now with the way that things are going is just in the reporting. First of all, we're only seeing reports on, we've got X number of new cases. Oh, this many new cases today, this many new cases this week, this many new cases this month. Well, the more tests that we can get out there, the more cases we're likely to find. That is just simple math. Okay. Also, here's the next thing. If I have to take a test, and then let's just hypothetically say that I took a test and it came back as a positive. Now I've got 2 weeks before I can go back to work, and then I'm going to have to retest before I am cleared to go back to work. And so let's say that second test comes back with a positive as well. Well, there's 2 new cases that just got tested right there, even though it's one body. And so the numbers are skewed because how many people have taken multiple tests, and those numbers do all get counted. The bigger issue I have is not with the number of new cases being skewed that way, but the fact that we do not hear about the number of deaths, because that number, as in a meme that I saw earlier today, has literally fallen off a cliff, because that number has just dropped off drastically, especially now that the CDC has gotten their poop in a group and is reporting the numbers correctly. It's amazing what happens when all of a sudden you've got some oversight from the White House and your numbers aren't able to be inflated anymore. But I digress. So I don't care how many people get this virus. I really don't. And I just waiting for somebody to take that out of context. I think one of the ways that you've made it as a YouTuber or made it as a podcast host is when people start taking you out of context and start hating you for what you said, even though it wasn't what you meant. So I'm just kind of hoping that day comes one day. But here's the thing. I don't care how many people get this virus. That does not matter to me. I could care less what that number is. Here's what I care about. How many people get this virus and it kills them? How many people get this virus and it makes them completely sick to where they have to go to the hospital and be on a respirator before they get better? And how many people get this virus and don't even know it? Or they get sick, but it's no worse than getting the flu. And how many people get this virus and don't even know they had it? Because those are the things that matter to me. And what we're seeing is the people that get this virus and it kills them. And I'm not talking about they had a heart attack, but they tested positive, so we count it as a COVID death. Because again, tinfoil hat or not, I've heard from way too many sources that that's happening. And I've heard from way too many sources within hospitals that that's happening for me to not believe all that, at least part of that is true. But the point of this is, again, we've got a 99.9% or better chance of surviving this virus if we catch it. Now, there are people that are in higher risk groups, and the virus in that case is way more deadly. And such a thing would be terrifying. And it's no secret that Sandhills' sweetheart here a few years ago was taking chemo treatments for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the strain that she's got, she'll never get rid of it. It can't be cured. It can only be kept in check. The good news is it can be kept in check. It's kind of like having to live with diabetes or something like that. It's not a death sentence. She went through chemo. It's in remission. And if it comes back, she'll go through chemo. It'll go back in remission. It's something that they can deal with. Okay. But during those chemo treatments, her immune system is just completely ransacked and almost non-existent. And so if that would happen and she would have to go back on chemo treatments during all this, then everything would change in my world, because all of a sudden I would be a lot more concerned, not for myself, but for me bringing it home. And that's something that, I would definitely have to make life changes. I understand that it can be deadly. I'm not trying to downplay the seriousness of this virus for the people that catch it and have reasons that they're in a high risk group. I get it. It's bad. Elderly people with lung problems, people with no immune systems. Yeah, that's a different story, but that's not most of the people. And 99.9% of us that catch this are going to live. And so why are we locking down our whole country? Why are we insisting all of a sudden that we should wear a mask when early on it was said that masks won't work because they don't stop this virus anyway? And only an N95 mask will work, but only if it gets fit tested. Those of us with facial hair will never get a seal, so it kind of defeats the purpose. That's kind of like closing the door while the window is open. I mean, we've got all of this actual scientific evidence or proof or whatever you want to call it floating around, and it refutes itself. I mean, we've got so many conflicting stories that I don't know which one to believe. So now all of a sudden, people are getting told, and it's still happening, there are new mask mandates coming out all the time. So it's not like this has happened. Some of the places have had a mask mandate for months, right? But some of them are new. So why all of a sudden, if we're 4, 5 months, 6 months into a global pandemic, why mask up now? I mean, aren't the chances pretty high that we've already been exposed, most of us? And these are just questions that I have. When we talk about the government all of a sudden deciding to I guess the phrase I always use is the government has decided that it wants to be our daddy. all of a sudden we've got state and federal governments that have decided that they will make decisions for you based on what is best for you. And you do not get to make your own decisions for what is best. Even though you are an American citizen, you are free, you have rights that are protected by this document, okay? But all of a sudden those don't matter. All of a sudden we've taken this, and what have we done with it? We've just thrown it away, right? You can't do that in this country. You cannot ignore the laws that we have just because there's a quote unquote emergency. And there's not a provision that I've found that says that you can lock down the country and kill the economy and put people out of work and make them draw unemployment and force them to be dependent on the government's nipple. I haven't found that passage in there that says that. And if anybody knows where it is, please point it out to me and enlighten me that there's a passage that specifically says that it's okay to do this stuff, because it's not. So at some point, something's going to have to happen where all of a sudden enough of us have had enough, and we turn to the government and we say, hey, you need to keep your hands to yourself. We don't work for the government. We don't belong to the government. The government works for us and it belongs to us. We are the people. We are in charge. We are the ones that make decisions. And in this country, I have not lost any of my rights. I have not been convicted of any crimes that would strip my rights of me as a consequence of my bad decisions. Therefore, I've got all my rights. Therefore, I have the right to choose for myself what is best, as long as what I choose for myself doesn't take the rights away from any one of you or anybody else. Period. You can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me what to wear. You can't tell me how to act, how to think, how to speak, any of that stuff legally. Maybe you can tell me what to wear if it means that it's that or a public indecency charge. I mean, that could be argued, but that would be about it. But you can't tell me which pants to wear or which shirt to wear. You can only tell me that I have to wear, pants and a shirt, right? That is the extent. Now, I would love to hear any differing viewpoints than mine, but ultimately, whether we're talking about masks or firearm laws or anything else, it comes down to this. We are the ones that get to decide for ourselves how we want to live our lives, right? And ultimately, that's what keep your hands to yourself really means. I think most of us got told that as a kid at some point. And if you didn't, it's because you didn't get raised by my mother, because that was one of her favorite things to say, especially when we were, my sister and I were younger and we were in the back seat on a road trip, and Mom would just turn around and say, both of you keep your hands to yourself, look out the window. And if we didn't, there was a wooden spoon in the car, and she could reach any corner of the back seat with that wooden spoon. I don't know how she did it. She had go-go gadget arms because she could reach you no matter how far you hid. Just say, and we had like some of those big old, 80s Ford LTD cars. I mean, it wasn't like everything was just a 2-foot reach. I mean, we had cars that you could get lost in the back seat. So just saying.
You bring up an interesting point, Sandhill.
Yeah.
When you point out that growing up, your mom could use corporal punishment on you. Nowadays, the government tells you can't use corporal punishment on your own kid. Now it's child abuse.
She was free to discipline her children the way that she saw fit, wasn't she?
That's right. My mom even. I'm only 32. And I guess I'm the last generation. If I messed up really bad, my mom had her belt. And that was it. She didn't, leave me lashes or nothing, but she got me once or twice to make her point. My grandma had a spatula. Now, I had an ex-girlfriend a few years ago who had a son. And, I'm sitting here. She told me, hey, discipline him for me if he does something wrong, if I'm watching him. And the first second I spanked him, his grandma's calling me saying she's going to file charges. It never went anywhere, but I'm just like, is this really the America we're living in now, that the government could throw me in jail because I gave a kid a bare palm? And that's one more example. Further government overreach. They say it takes a village to raise a child. No, it doesn't. It takes two good parents that have time to raise him or her. So,
well, and honestly, sometimes I think that's where we went wrong, is when people adopted that it takes a village mindset, because that really does give people the sense of, I guess, entitlement, the sense that they have a right to put their nose into my business. And ultimately, I mean, I don't disagree with that notion. Good parents, and whether it's one good parent or two good parents. Now, I'm willing to sit down and have a discussion with anybody that wants to argue that a 2-parent household is better for a child than a 1-parent household. Sometimes life happens and it is what it is. Okay. But ideally, having a 2-parent household really is more enriching and fulfilling for a kid. Now, that is one of the things, though, that is happening, is all of a sudden we've got families, even with 2 parents, where mom and dad both work. The kids are left to be raised by their teachers in school and by, MTV or Nickelodeon or HBO or whatever they're watching after school. One of you's making some noise. It might be you, Michael. I'm just going to go ahead and mute you there. Oh, too late. I already clicked mute. You can unmute yourself. Anyway, so yeah, that really is one of the things that is kind of happening right now, is we've gone from the mom and dad, I'll discipline my kid, don't worry about disciplining my kid. Or even, back in my day, if any of my friends' mom said jump, we jumped. And if we were goofing around and my friend got, a spanking, I probably was going to get one too, because we both were doing whatever and we deserved it. I mean, again, that was the world that we grew up in. But now you can't spank your own kids or anybody else's kids. And yeah, again, I mean, we could go off on that tangent a long ways here. I want to get back to the panel, though, and see what everybody else thinks as far as mask mandates. If they have them where you are. Is there a mask mandate now in Dallas? Because I think I remember hearing that there is. Isn't there, Yehuda?
Yeah, we have a mask mandate in Texas here. I choose not to follow it if I don't have to, meaning unless I disagree with the mask mandate completely, but I don't have that big of an ego that I'm going to walk into a store that might get fined because of my belief. So I will walk into a store. I was at a car dealership today, getting work on my car, and I was talking to one of the guys there, and I said, "Hey, would it be okay if I took my mask off?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, it's all good." So I took my mask off, and I was there for like 2 hours without a mask. If they give me permission, thing comes right off my face. But I'm against the masks, but I don't have that big of an ego to say, you see all these people walking into stores and getting in fights with, people who work there because they're being told, please wear a mask. And they're like, no, hell no, we're not going to wear a mask, blah, blah, blah. I think that's ridiculous. Check your ego. And if you're going into a private business, they can tell you what to do, whether you like it or not. That said, and I never thought I would say this, but when it comes to our rights right now, I honestly don't think, in terms of the mask mandates and everything going on, I don't think the government is the number one enemy against us. It honestly, you put the media as the number one enemy. The media is so vicious in this election cycle because they want to make Trump. And look, I'm not the biggest Trump fan. Okay, I call balls and strikes when he does something good. I commend him when he does something bad. I call him out on it. That said, the media is trying to paint him to be this tyrannical monster, and the equivalent of the America's like Nazi Germany from Jamila Hill the other day. And people calling Trump Hitler and all. I mean, it's ridiculous. Why doesn't the media, and it's the same thing with our gun rights, so we can bring that in. Why doesn't the media talk about the defensive uses in guns every single day? Why don't they talk about how many people survived Corona every day? Of course, because that doesn't sell. That doesn't build fear in the country. That doesn't make people hate Trump. So I think the government, as much control as they want, as much control as they're looking to attain, I do think that the media is pushing a narrative that's forcing the government right now to way overstep their boundaries when it comes to the mask mandates, because they are instilling fear into a population when there really shouldn't be there shouldn't be that kind of response to a 99. I think right now it's 99.5% survivability rate. I think I saw last. But either way,
you know what? For argument's sake, let's say 99%.
Yeah, 99%.
We know it's over 99, so call it 99
exactly.
even.
So we'll call it a 99% survivability rate. Why aren't they reporting on that? And I'm one of those people that firmly believe, come the day after elections, Corona will be gone.
You know,
Exactly.
I've thought that for a long time, but I think it was just yesterday, Sandhills Sweetheart and I were talking about this, and I said, I don't know anymore that I actually believe that, because for one of two reasons. Number one, if Trump is reelected, as I hope he is, I'm not saying that I am, on the Trump train, but at the same time, I hope Trump gets reelected in this election. If that's the case, then coronavirus only goes away if everybody agrees to drop it and find the next thing to attack him with. Right now, coronavirus magically sprung up right after impeachment was over, and that went nowhere. So we didn't hear about it until after the impeachment was done. But that's probably just a coincidence. So possibly it does go away because they're going to come up with something completely different to throw at him. But if it's working, if there's a chance to completely tank the economy and have his second term be worse, economically speaking, than the first, which in the history books, all they have to say is that it was the worst economy ever. They don't have to give the reasons. And, they can still paint him as a demon in the history books, forevermore. 3 generations from now, nobody will remember what actually happened. But,
well, when I say go away, what I mean by that is obviously Corona will still be here. However,
sure it will. You're talking about the BS that's come with it.
Yes, I think it.
So
okay,
yeah.
so do I think it's going to go away? Maybe not completely. Do I think it's going to be way less? I mean, I think you're going to start seeing more. I mean,
and I hope you're right.
Yeah, I hope I'm right too. I mean, I at the same time, I hope I'm wrong, and like that, it just goes away completely. However, what you're going to see following the election, if Trump wins, the riots that we have seen so far will be nothing compared to what we're going to see the day after elections.
Yeah,
and
I believe that.
And that in itself is going to be the main story. And you will see once again that Corona is going to take a way back burner to a racist, anti-Semitic president who doesn't care about racial injustice, stuff like that. I mean, that's going to be the main story. And it's unfortunate, but that's what I believe is going to happen.
No, and I've also thought, forbid it should happen, but Joe Biden gets elected, and we've already been conditioned, to accept a certain level of governmental control. So does that overreach get worse? Because I could see that happening too. Because everybody's, I've heard both ways. Well, if Trump gets reelected, the Corona stuff disappears and they find something else, or they keep whipping that horse, and it gets worse than ever, and they double down on it. If Biden gets elected, it all goes away because they don't have to worry about throwing Trump out anymore. Or also, if he would get elected, then they double down on it because who's going to stop him? So I mean, there are so many scenarios that could go down, and I'm not sure how it will actually happen at this point, because I can't really rule out any of those four. So I hope that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, continue. I did not mean my thought to interrupt your sentence. Continue.
Oh, I was just gonna say I hope that either way, no matter what happens after the election, that it is over with. But go ahead and throw your thought out, and then there's a couple things from out there in the chat that I want to get to before they go away.
I often preach the lesson of Tytler's cycle, and William Tytler spoke how a democracy or a republic can never be a permanent form of government. When the people figure out that they can just vote for the person who will give them the largest treats or gifts from the treasury, then invariably they begin to vote for that person every time. And eventually, through fiscal irresponsibility, the government collapses into a dictatorship, or now we know of communism. When that was written, it was in the 1700s. So Tytler's cycle has nearly completed in the United States. We've seen dependency on the government for both implied security as well as financial well-being become so strong that eventually they will wrest control from the people. It's not really an issue of the technique, but rather us allowing it to continue.
Yeah, indeed. All right, I want to put this up on the screen. Thank you, AA, for the super chat. We appreciate it. $2 super chat. And he says, people wearing masks alone in the car with the windows up, laugh out loud. And I see this all too often. Although now I do want to give people a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because I've thought about it, and maybe not everybody who's wearing a mask in their car is afraid they're going to catch the coronavirus through their, radio or something. Maybe they're not all complete sheep. But how many times have you gone into got out of the car, gone into a store, and realized you had taken your wallet out of your pocket and left it, in your car, and then, oh shoot, I forgot. I went, and then you got to go back out and get it. Or how many times have you, done something where you meant to leave your sunglasses in the car and then you wore them inside, something like that. And so there are people that kind of forget about that mask unless they just keep it on. And if you keep it on, at least you have it with you. So I get it. I mean, some of these people may just be as forgetful as I am. And if my head wasn't bolted on and sewn in 3 places, then I would forget it too. So Sandhills Sweetheart can back me up on that one. She's the one that makes sure that I know where stuff is, because, well, she makes sure that she knows where stuff is so that when I ask her where stuff is, she can tell me. But
I still laugh at it in traffic.
I still laugh at it. Don't get me wrong. I don't point very often anymore, but I do laugh at it. Because I do see that drive by me. One other thing out here in the chat that Blitz had said, and I want to address this. Blitz said, I'll just try to throw it out just for sake of argument. According to this thought, draft dodgers were in the right not to be called to service. Why fight for something they don't believe in? And then he went on to say, not saying he believes it, but he just wants to get some of the viewpoints on that. Now, here's my thought. Nobody is being forced into the military via the draft, because nobody forced me to register for selective service. I did that on my own. Now, if I want
forced to do selective service, hold on now, Sandhill.
No, was I?
When you turned 18 as a man, nowadays women have to do it too. Mm-hmm. When you turned 18, if you didn't register and they found out by the time you were 26, you would have got fined.
I would have got fined.
I recall.
Yeah.
It used to have
I had a choice, didn't I?
True. You could have took the penalty.
Could have took the penalty. Could have waived my right to government grants, FOSFA, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Now, there are things that you don't get if you're not registered for selective service. Yes, it is incentivized. Don't get me wrong. But I had the option of not registering for selective service. Therefore, if I get drafted, it's because I signed up to be potentially drafted. That was my decision to make. Is it the lesser of the two evils at this point? I still think it is, because we haven't reopened the draft since Vietnam. But I always said I'm not going to enlist, but if Uncle Sam decides that he wants me to serve, and if God decides that he wants me, my name to get picked, and I can pass the physical, I will go because it's my duty. And I am thankful for everybody that does enlist on their own so that they haven't had to reopen the draft and I haven't had to go when I didn't want to. I'm very thankful for all of you who have served and are currently serving because, again, because of you, I didn't have to do it. And I love you and appreciate you from the bottom of my heart, not only because you kept me out of it, but because it is a potentially terrible thing that you might have to see or witness or be part of. So, I mean, I love all of the veterans, past and present. So I still had the choice. So I don't think that dodging the draft because after you registered for selective service, then down the road you decided that you changed your mind. That's not something you get to change your mind on. If you go to Canada because you don't want to get drafted, then if you've got that kind of money, I understand it. Power to you. If you can do that and you're okay with your conscience and you can sleep at night and face the man or woman in the mirror, do whatever you want to do. Again, not my decision to make. I'm not going to tell you you can't go to Canada to hide from the draft. That would be me not keeping my hands to myself. So, but I did want to comment on that and see, does anybody disagree with me as far as what I just said on that part?
Was he asking? Was he asking compared to the mask mandate?
I think just in general, just in the concept of keeping one's hands to yourself and the government not telling us how we should live our lives.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I'm not for a draft. I don't think, it's just like, you can compare it also to something today, right? Jury duty.
Right.
I mean, that's basically the government telling you, no, I'm sorry, you need to go and waste, or not waste, but you know what I'm saying?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially waste a week, 2-3 weeks of your life to something you get paid, what, like $7 a day? I mean, it's like, really? I have a business, right? I get paid $200, $300, $400 a day. You think your $7 an hour, whatever it is gonna? I mean,
yeah,
look,
exactly.
Government's one job is to keep us safe against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's really what their sole job should be.
I don't disagree.
You to do anything.
There are so many things. Jury duty, taxes. I mean, this country was founded on, not that they didn't want to pay tax, but if you're going to have to be taxed, then you get represented and you get a say, you get a vote. So it wasn't that this country was founded on not paying taxes, but still the fact that we have to pay taxes or face incarceration or fines or whatever it is. I mean, again, that to me feels like government overreach. That feels like
an example.
Somebody else making a decision for me and telling me that they know better than I do how to live my life. Okay, go ahead, Michael.
All right, so the question was about the draft, and it made me think for a second. And we all have our religious beliefs, and the most famous example I could think of was Alvin York. He was a very pacifist, bi-religious person. Whatever, he tried to get exemptions. His religion said, do no harm, don't kill, and it was straight up. Yet Alvin York answered the call to duty, despite the fact that if he didn't, he would have been locked up. And he went to World War I, and he's a war hero. And he turned out to be one of the greatest war heroes our country's ever known. Now, in my opinion, when it comes time for a war, yes, we have an all-professional military now since 1973, and we probably will never see a draft again unless somehow it's against China and it's not nuclear. But it used to be, if the country went to war, it was every man's duty between 18 and however old, if he was physically fit enough, to either get to the front line or get drafted to get to the front line. And to me, if you don't have that as a country, especially considering that it is the government's job to protect us from enemies, foreign and domestic, I'd like to say the government wouldn't institute a draft unless it was going to fail to protect us at this point. And it's just nowadays people take that for granted, and it's an all volunteer service. And I'm thankful for everyone who volunteers. I would have volunteered, but I got 2 blown knees. They weren't taking me. And the fact of the matter is, though, if the way I see it, if a draft were to come down today, if you can get a religious exemption, God bless you. But if you can't, you never know. You might be the next Alvin York. And you know what? God has a plan for everybody. And if that's his plan for you or me or anyone else, who am I to judge?
Sure.
And to keep this country where it's at, it's all worth it in my book.
And on the flip side of that, we moved to, hold on just for a second. The flip side of that, we moved to World War II. And if you've read the book or seen the movie Hacksaw Ridge, the story of Desmond Doss, who wanted to serve and wouldn't pick up a gun because of his religion. And he had also made a promise to his mother that he would never pick up a gun. And so he wanted to honor that and his God while serving his country. And he wanted to be a combat medic. And I don't know the whole story because I haven't read the story. I've only seen the movie that they made about him. But I mean, he was locked up and court-martialed at one point, and by the grace of God, was allowed to go and be in theater in the Pacific Theater, and ended up saving how many lives because he was allowed to go and be a medic and not carry a gun. 70. And so, I mean, there's both sides of that. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So,
oh no, sorry. He saved 76 lives.
76. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So real quick, I met Desmond Doss as a young man, and talking to him was instrumental in my decision to become a combat medic. Awesome. I stood in front of his placard at Fort Sam Houston and read his reward of the Medal of Honor. And as a combat medic who volunteered, it was the most inspirational thing I've ever done in my life. And I can tell you that as somebody who worked in an all-volunteer army, the concept of a conscripted army is a nightmare. An army of professional soldiers is an army of brothers who are there to fight because they believe before the conflict. They believe before everything happens, and they will be there no matter what. I tell people I didn't believe in every conflict I served in, but what I believed in was the men and women at home and the man and the woman standing next to me. I've looked into the eyes of men that humble me to this day, and I go to the grave sites and say goodbye to friends who died when I was but a boy as comparison to where I am now. And I can tell you, for all of us who would volunteer, I believe most of us would tell you a draft would be a nightmare for this nation and the strength of our military.
And I can't disagree with that either. I've often said when the topic has come up about having females able to, serve in active combat or on the front lines, if I have my druthers and I'm in a foxhole and I've got my choice, give me a woman who wants to be there fighting over a man who is only there because he got drafted and will do anything to get out of it. And I can't trust him to have my 6, but I could trust that woman to have my 6 because she's there because she wants to fight and she feels that compulsion and that duty to her country. Yeah, I don't care what the gender is. I care what the attitude is and the heart that's in the human being. So never having been in a foxhole, I don't know what it's like, but if I have to be in one and I've got a choice of who to be in there with me, I will choose people that want to be there and that I can trust to have my 6. Absolutely.
Foxholes in the back of a fox.
Okay, then. Anyway. Yep, never been there either. Anyway,
planning to?
This is going on the off the rails really quickly. Let's try to put this back on the rails. Okay. Government overreach, not keeping your hands to yourself. Let's completely shift gears and get away from COVID, get away from drafting and any of that. And we're not talking about NASCAR. I'm not tailgating, I'm drafting. Anyway, I've known people that needed that bumper sticker.
Not a tailgate, it's a protest.
Right. It's a peaceful protest against the Saints or against whoever my team is playing. All right, so let's talk about some more government overreach and sticking your nose into places where it doesn't belong. Because another huge example of the government doing things that they don't have the right to do. Let's talk about red flag laws, or extreme risk protection orders. I don't know the exact names or places. I heard about this and I just got the broad strokes, but recently I know somebody got red flagged. It made some of the news. I think even Guns and Gadgets was talking about him. Now, the guy is a piece of filth in my mind. He is one of those guys that apparently there's some sort of an online club of these people with the bowl cuts that kind of worship the guy that shot up the synagogue. And I can't even think of his name, and I'm not going to say it on the air. He doesn't deserve to have his name repeated. But there's a whole bunch of people that have kind of idolized him. And one of them got red flagged because he's a racist. Now, Yehuda and I talked about this kind of at length a few weeks ago when he was a guest on our panel or on our show here. I don't care whether or not the guy wants to be a Nazi. I don't care whether or not the guy's a racist. The fact of the matter is that is still not grounds to take away his Second Amendment rights when he's not committed a crime. And even the FBI looked into this guy and didn't go to his house, didn't investigate him, didn't arrest him, had no grounds to arrest him. If the police have no grounds to arrest you, they should have no grounds to take away your property because you might commit a crime. That, to me, is the slipperiest of slopes. And if we're going to allow it to be done to somebody's guns, then why would we think that it wouldn't one day be allowed to be done to somebody's freedom? Now, my thought when you come to red flags, here's what I've always said. If I am going to get served an extreme risk protection order, if I was deemed to be a threat to myself or others, then why wouldn't I get locked up? Why take away my guns and leave my chainsaws and my knives and my electrical cords and my pills and anything that I could use to hurt myself or hurt somebody else, except for a firearm? Because that is the one thing that I'm smart enough to figure out how to use to hurt myself. I mean, honestly, give me a little bit of credit here. Why not lock me up? If I'm the threat, why not take me out of circulation? If that's the case, right? Of course, nobody would be okay with that. Even the people that have not read that Constitution know better than to allow people to be locked up just because somebody wants them locked up. You can't get locked up until you commit a crime, right? Or at least you've been suspected of committing a crime, and then they are researching that. And so, that being the case, with red flag laws, then same thing. I mean, you can't punish somebody for a crime that's not been committed. So that is, not only is it wrong on every level, it sets a precedent that is so dangerous. And I can't believe that there's any American that is willing to live in a country where this would be okay. Because again, if they do it to one, they'll do it to all. And I'm talking about your rights. So jump in, whatever you guys think as far as red flag laws and the government not keeping their hands to themselves or not keeping their nose out of your business.
Does anybody want to go first?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Take it away, and I'll jump in.
So just let's call it like it is. The red flag laws, they are just a thinly veiled attempt at just gun control itself. When they tried to pass that stuff here in Nebraska in February, and I read the bills forward and backwards, and the list of people that could potentially turn you in for a red flag, it wasn't just people. It was people you used to live with. It was ex-in-laws. It was, the amount of people that could potentially turn you in, and if they could speak more eloquently or you could afford a better lawyer than the person accused, then that person's rights would get stripped. And they tried to veil it also as a suicide prevention law here in Nebraska.
Well, that was two different laws.
Well, but they were trying to.
But you're right. They did go hand in hand.
Right. My point is, it was extreme overreach, and we had to get those squashed because it comes down to that is just them. Like I said, they're trying to pose. They're trying to be nice about this. They're trying to pose that as protection orders, and it really is just a ways to strip your rights and do gun control and give too many people too many hands and too many fingers on the outcome of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And the worst part is there were, the people that were listed that qualified as family. Anybody that you lived with, even, excuse my itchy nose here. Even, if you lived with them 20 years ago and they were a former roommate, they still would be on the list as people that could file that protection order. If anybody has an ex-wife or ex-husband, if you've got an ex-significant other and you've got kids with them, then they qualify. Let's take this a step further because it's still the truth. If you had a drunken one-night stand that produced a child and you never talked to that person again, you signed away your rights as a parent, and you've never seen that person or that child after that, they still qualify as family, as the biological mother of your biological child or father of your biological child. And they still would be on the list as people who qualify as family that could do that. Now, again, the implication is that these people need to be vetted, right? And the judge would have to agree that whoever is doing this knows what they're talking about. But again, we're going back to all of a sudden this is subjective. We've put this on the shoulders of a person to make this determination and not on the law, not objectively. Objective laws are pretty cut and dried. If you commit this crime, you are subject to this penalty. If you do not commit this crime, you cannot be penalized for this, right? That's how laws work. All of a sudden, when we bring a judge into it who may or may not be objective, and let's face it, those of us that think we're the most objective person in the world, we still aren't. It's impossible for a human to be completely objective. Everybody looks at the world through the filter of their own past experiences and their own beliefs. And so we're all humans and we all see things our way. That's just the way of it. It's not a bad way. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it could be in a case like this. And so now all of a sudden we've got somebody who may or may not believe the person who is bringing this against you, but maybe they're okay with just taking your guns away because they don't think you need them anyway, because they don't think that you should have a right to them anyway. And by golly, and here's another one. Which one of you, if you were a judge, which one of you wants to be the judge that didn't grant the protection order, the extreme risk protection order, who didn't grant that, and then the person did go on to hurt somebody? Because what's that going to look like?
They shouldn't be there in the first place, though.
They shouldn't, but if you're in that position and somebody files that order and you're hearing the case with or without them present, because you don't have to, the person who's being filed against doesn't necessarily get to be there. They don't have to tell them about it. But who wants to be that judge? Who wants to take that chance? Honestly. Yeah. So if you have to choose between the lesser of the two evils, what are you going to do? You're going to grant the order because it's better than being the judge that let somebody get killed. Because the state Congress, go ahead, hold on a second. Because the state Congress or the state House or both in most states have said that these laws are okay. The governor signed off on it, and now the state has deemed that this is an okay law. So is the judge going to say, nope, I don't like this law, and I'm willing to take a chance that this person isn't going to kill somebody? What judge in their right mind is going to be that objective? Even a conservative judge is going to be put between a rock and a hard place at this point. So, okay, what were you going to say, Nighthawk?
So there's a DA in California that has fully weaponized this. She has used every time she's received any type of a case where there is a potential victim profile, she's immediately executing the red flag law. She is single-handedly becoming a collector of guns and is taking great pride on Twitter and other social medias at the number of guns she's taken out of Los Angeles. So you're exactly right. You're exactly right. No judge in their right mind is not going to side with the quote victim, and it is being weaponized against gun owners.
Not only
I
that,
have
but
an example of the opposite, though, if you'll let me. If you
Yeah,
guys
go
are
ahead.
ready.
Go ahead.
So one of the groups we work with to stop gun bans is out in New Jersey called CNJFO. And one of their members had a doctor sign off on getting rid of his guns. The doctor could not get the local judge to take the guy's guns away. So he had to go shopping all throughout the state of New Jersey. You know, doctor shopping, this is judge shopping. Had to find a judge willing to do it based on the diagnosis. So these judges do exist that will give you the benefit of the doubt. And in this guy's case, from what I understand, CNJFO did a press release the other day where the guy got his guns back. And when they found out that he went above and beyond the first local judge to get it done, they're probably suing or whatever. So they're not giving much detail. But the fact is, there are judges that won't do it. And as much of a pain as it is to go through it, you can get your guns back. But in my opinion, to start with, the red flag laws, if anybody but Joe Biden were running and if the Democrats weren't willing to get rid of our guns, that red flag order would have been enough to get Trump out of the White House, in my opinion. So this sets up a dangerous precedent. The fact that any of us should have to go through this, not all of us can afford, a 6-digit lawyer to do what this guy in New Jersey did to get his guns back. You also have the nightmare scenario where the police kicked the guy's door down in Maryland to do one, and the guy thought he was having a home invasion, so he opened fire, and now he's dead. He had no idea it was coming. It doesn't help when you tell them you're going to take their guns, but you don't tell them, so you do it by a no-knock warrant in the first place. You're just opening yourself up to having a police officer shot at, and I think we can all agree we don't want to see that. It's just too much of a fiasco, and again, great job, Sandhill. It's another example of government overreach, and the first thing that's got to go if we win the re-election is these red flag laws, and that's just all there is to it.
Yeah, there's the first thing that's got to go is those, along with so many others. Exactly. One thing I do want to mention, where did that go to out here? Oops, I got to look at the right place. All right. Vash Matrix had said, because we were talking about, you can't be arrested until you've committed a crime or whatever. And he brought up a good point, saying that accusations are enough to get men arrested. And that is very true. But an accusation can result in an arrest, but that arrest can only happen with a warrant. And once that person is arrested, they have the right to remain silent. They have the right to an attorney. They have the right to a jury trial with a jury of their peers. They have the right to a presumption of innocence. They have the right to face their accuser. They have the right to know why they've been detained, why they've been arrested, and the right to defend themselves in a court of law. All things that are not granted in a red flag law hearing, especially if it is, what's the word for it when they don't, an ex parte ERPO hearing, because you don't get to find out that the judge has ruled on any of this until it's too late. They've already come to take your stuff away and lock up your guns. And again, not lock up you, because nobody would stand for that, because everything I have already mentioned. But there are people that are okay with not locking up the person and just taking the guns away. But yet we don't want to call it. And that's another problem I have here is that nobody wants to call red flag laws what they really are. Like Defense Dad said, I think it was Defense Dad, these things are just a way to take the guns out of people's houses, but we can't admit to that. We can't call it what it is. We have to disguise it as, again, it's for your own good. It's for your own protection. It's for the protection of everybody. It's we're doing this because we know better than you do. It's bullcrap is what it is. If they could at least be honest and call them, gun confiscation protection orders, because that's all they're taking away. Don't pee on my head and tell me it's raining and expect me to believe that this is for anybody's safety when all you're going to do is take the guns away and leave me here, or leave the accused, I don't even know what you want to call it. I guess the defendant. Leave them there, because if this person is so dangerous, then why would you leave them on the street? And if you're not going to take them off the street, then why would you violate any of their rights? What grounds do you have to pick and choose? Why does anybody get to make the determination of, one thing is okay, but another thing is not, when the Constitution doesn't say that anybody has that right or that the government can take it away? So again, I mean, huge government overreach, and it's one that gets most of us in the Second Amendment circle and pro-gun circle. It should get us fired up. If it doesn't get you fired up, then maybe you need to pay closer attention to what it really is. So anyway, I've probably said enough on that part. Justin Gibbons has a great comment out there. Scariest word you'll ever hear is "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Amen.
Ronald Reagan.
That is awesome. Thanks for throwing that in there, Justin. I'm glad you're here. He had sent me a message before we went live tonight and said that he was going to try and make it. So I'm glad you're here, Justin. All right. So it's getting kind of late, and we could go through a whole bunch of other stuff, and we could probably talk about this for several hours in a row here, but we're not going to do that. So here's what I want to do is I just want to give everybody a chance to chime in. And if you have something that, you've been waiting to bring up that we haven't covered yet, as far as government overreach, and you know what, it doesn't have to be government. It can be something as simple as Karen, yelling at you in Walmart because you aren't wearing a mask and you're killing her grandmother. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but other than that, other than the yelling at people for not wearing a mask in Walmart, do any of the four of you have anything else you want to bring up as far as keeping one's hands to oneself and keeping your nose out of somebody else's business?
It's a little off topic, but
okay.
How about this mail-in only election?
Okay, go for it.
So I'm in Clark County, Nevada, which is 2/3 of the state's population. We've got 3 million people here. And the governor decided that because of the masks, we were going to have a mail-in only election. And you would have the option to vote in person. Well, the next day, Clark County, also a blue seat, decided that all 2 million of us here could only vote in one of 2 polling places if we didn't get the mail. Now, mind you, if you live in an apartment or a condominium complex for the primary, your ballots were all posted on a community bulletin board. They weren't even put in your mailbox.
Nice.
So, yeah, this whole thing just seems like a complete fiasco. If you can come to my dice table and spend 14 hours rolling the dice, or you can go to Walmart and get yelled at by Karen because you didn't go down the right side of the aisle, why can't you stand in line for an hour, if there are more than 2 places at least, with your own stylus even, wearing your mask 6 feet apart, and fill out your little ballot card? I just don't understand why they're weaponizing this election even to, I mean, yeah, I'm a blue district. We've got 4 electoral votes. We don't matter, but you got California, you got Oregon, Washington doing the same thing. It's really the blue states punishing themselves, but it almost sets it up to where neither side is going to accept whoever wins this election. And to me, you're just setting it up for trouble in the streets, no matter what, come 4th or 5th of November, by the time things are starting to set to be counted. And I just don't understand the logic behind this whole thing. You can do all these things I said you could do in Vegas, but you can't vote.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, in its own way, that is also overreach. I just wanted to bring that up.
Well, and again, it's because people aren't given the option. And And that's where it comes into, again, the government has decided that they know what's best for you, because you little peons are not smart enough to make your own decisions, or at least you're not smart enough to make good decisions. Therefore, the government has to step in and make decisions for you because you're too stupid to figure this out for yourself. So let the government take care of you because they know what is best. They are benevolent. They are omniscient. They would never make a mistake or do something wrong. So just trust them, because that is the way that the world will just work better. If you would just do everything the government tells you to do when they tell you to do it, because they know so much more than you, then everything will be fine. We will all be just living in a van down by the river, singing Kumbaya, eating nothing but rainbows and unicorns. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be lovely. And we're too stupid to believe anything different because, we can't be trusted to make our own decisions or be grown-ups. So that's why we have a government, because we're stupid. They're not. They know best. Let's listen to them. And if anybody is actually not laughing and is nodding along with anything I just said, then you've got some issues. But honestly, that is what it comes down to. And let's step back and all joking aside, the government is literally saying, you are stupid. You cannot be trusted to make your own decisions. You need us to make decisions for you because you will screw it up. And if that does not piss you off, then you really should rethink a lot of things in your life, because that is honestly what you're getting told. And if you're so used to being told that you're dumb and you can't make good decisions, then you've forgotten what it means to be an American. That is the opposite of what it means to be American. We live in the land of the free. We live here because of the brave. They did not fight and bleed and die for us to live in a free country, only to roll over and let the government make decisions for us and give up the right to make our own choices. That goes against everything that every soldier has ever died for in the name of this country.
Hooah!
Hooah!
Amen.
Can I say that? I'm not a Marine. Can I say that? Can I say hooah?
Hooah
As long
is
as I don't-
Army.
Oh, okay. I'm
Amen
not.
works for us civvies.
Okay. There we go. I say booyah. That just makes me a fisherman, right?
Yep, that works too.
Okay. There we go.
Hooah translates to heard, understood, and acknowledged.
I did
Sure.
not know that.
Sure. It makes me think of a blind guy driving a Ferrari, but okay. Again, for those of you not alive in the 90s, there was a movie where Al Pacino played a blind retired Army colonel, and Chris O'Donnell was taking care of him, and the blind guy got behind the wheel of the Ferrari, and they were driving that around. Anyway, it was called Scent of a Woman. Great movie. Watch it.
Great movie.
Okay. Anyway, does anybody else want to jump in with any other examples before I go off on the civilian overreach?
Oh no, let's do that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I wanted to get this out at some point, and I've not made my own standalone the way I see it video on this because I just have life has not been at a point where I've wanted to take time and slow down and make those videos. I want to, but I haven't taken time. And so so here's the way that I feel about that, because I don't know if you all saw it here a couple weeks ago. There was a video going around of a lady that was in Walmart with her kids. She was wearing a mask. Her kids were not wearing a mask. And it got national attention on some of the news outlets. This lady, and I don't remember where this happened. I know it was from the accents. I believe it was somewhere southern, but I don't know if it was, Texas or the Southeast or exactly where this was. This older lady walked up to these little kids, and I'm talking like kindergarten or younger age kids. They're not wearing a mask. It's not part of the mask mandate for the little kids to wear a mask. This lady comes up with her hands clasped behind her, like a your old fashioned gray haired school teacher, gets down in their face and yells at the kids, not at the mom, yells at the kids that they're not wearing a mask. And she hopes that their whole family gets sick and dies because they're killing her and her husband. Now, this really did happen. And the mom, bless her heart, was trying to be gracious, trying to not lose it in front of her kids, and trying not to go off on this woman, and kept telling her, you just go ahead and just go somewhere else. Goodbye. Have a great day. Just leave us alone. Go away. And the lady wouldn't have it. But even as she's walking away, she turns back around and says, you're killing me and my husband, or you're killing my husband. All right. Here's the way that this works. Nobody's forcing anybody to go into Walmart. Now, full disclosure, I've been into Walmart several times in my town. I haven't worn a mask yet. And there are people at the door sometimes that tell you need to wear a mask, and you can walk right by them, and nobody comes to throw me out of the store. Now, if they come up and say, hey, you cannot enter without a mask, then I choose to enter, then I've broken a different law. Then I'm trespassing. They have the right as a private business to require their customers to wear a mask. Okay. I'm not disputing their right to do so. I've also seen the reports of that all of the Walmart stores got told not to confront customers who aren't wearing a mask because they'd rather have a customer shop without a mask than an altercation, because a few people got roughed up, it looked like, and I believe one Walmart manager even got a gun pulled on him somewhere over this mask debacle. Somebody just refused to wear it and said, you can't make me. Well, they can. I mean, if they tell you to wear a mask and you insist on not wearing one, and then they ask you to leave, you got to go. That's a private property. That's trespassing if you don't go. It's no different than if you wear your gun into Walmart and they find out about it and they ask you to leave and come back without it, and you don't go, you are breaking a law. You're trespassing. That's criminal. Okay. Maybe a misdemeanor, maybe a felony. I don't know all the ins and the outs, but it is a criminal act to not leave once you've been asked to leave. So they have the right to do that. But they've also said they're not going to, not over a mask. They've said that they're going to let people shop and not wear them. And every time I've been in there, I've seen at least one other shopper in Walmart that didn't have a mask on. So I didn't feel like I was, the only non-compliant person in there. But if it ever came down to it, I would just ask them, would you rather have my business, or are you asking me to leave? And if they say they're asking me to leave, I'm going to go, because again, it's not a public property. It's theirs. They get to control who's there and who's not. Now, that being said, nobody's forcing you to shop there. Whether or not you want to go in with or without a mask, that doesn't matter. When you go into a public building like Walmart, it is of your own accord. It is because you have volunteered to go in there and do your shopping, which means you have also weighed the risk and have accepted the risk that you will be exposed to people, potentially people without a mask. So when anybody comes up to somebody else and yells at them because they're not wearing a mask and says, you're killing my grandmother because you could be giving me the COVID right now. Well, guess what? I'm not going to your grandmother's house and spitting on her or breathing on her. Your grandmother's not in Walmart. You are. So if you go to Walmart and get in my face, even if I do give you the virus and you take it back home to your grandmother, guess what, sweetheart? That's on you. You don't get to accuse me of killing your grandmother because you got in my face and then got the Rona and took it to grandma. That's your fault. You killed her. Congratulations. You're a dumbass. Okay. I'm calm. Don't worry about me. It's all good.
You're not wrong.
The famous
I do love it when you get fired up. Makes me happy.
I love this part of the night. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Anyway, that's how I feel. And I you know what? I apologize for any of you who really are named Karen, that your name has become synonymous with that busybody who puts their nose into other people's business. I'm sorry for all the real Karens out there. I'm sure most of you are quite lovely, and there's only, one or two that have ruined your name for everybody else. Guess what, Karen? That's what it's like to be a gun owner. Deal with it. Anyway, all right. I think it's time to start wrapping up, because I'm just going to get worse as the night goes on, and I'm going to break my own rules as far as keeping it PG. So,
but it's getting better.
We'll start wrapping things up. we're going to go back around the horn and just let everybody have any final thoughts, anything else you want to put in there, and then any shameless plugs. Michael, we will start with you. So any shameless plugs? Again, there are some people that have joined that weren't here at the beginning. So who are you? What do you do? Where can we find you doing it? And then any other final thoughts?
Well, the pressure's on. Start with me, huh?
It's you. It's all you.
My name is Michael Zubik. I'm with an organization called Stop Gun Bans. You can find us on Facebook.com/Stop Gun Bans. Basically, what we do is we promote pro-gun activism. We run a weekly podcast every Friday. As far as anything else extra to add, this was a great show. I'm very thankful that you invited me on here. So thank you again. It seems like we have a great crowd. I've been kind of reading the chat as I've been muting myself and getting used to this whole format. I worked with guys like John Petrolino. I heard him shouted out earlier. He was a great guy to interview. I look forward, any of you who ever want to come on my show, you're more than welcome. You can find us on anchor.fm. Yeah, you got the book too.
John Petrolino.
You can find us on anchor.fm/stopgunbans. That's the podcast homepage. I generally will run one every week, but sometimes, I might let a couple weeks go by if it's a slow news week. I try to keep everything gun related. We've got a Facebook page and a group. Again, you're more welcome to check us out. We're just trying to basically be a grassroots version of the NRA because, actually, I will add one thing. The NRA, if you look next month, they have an edition called Inside the NRA coming out, where their spokesman basically claims responsibility for messing up the entire response to the Parkland kids fiasco in 2018, and showed that the membership money was going to everywhere but fixing that fiasco. So it shows the importance of grassroots groups like ours. There's a lot of them. Sandhillsshooter, he's a great guy, great media. And this is the future as far as gun activism goes, guys. That's really all I can say. The shows like this, shows like mine, organizations, state level, local level, these types of things. This is how you make a difference now. And of course, we'll always have the NRA, but let them be the boogeyman for the left so that we can get the real work done.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you again for having me on.
You bet. Thanks for being here tonight. Yeah, and I've said many times that the NRA, while they still step on it every now and then, or step in it every now and then and screw things up, and I have no love for LaPierre. I wish he was gone from the organization. But they do a lot of great things. The ILA screws things up. The NRA itself does great things. But they are the punching bag that we need. They're big enough to absorb the blows, and they can take the focus. The left hand is doing this over here. That's the NRA, and all the media is looking over here. Well, on this side, we've got GOA, FPC, SAF, all those other organizations, plus the state level and local level organizations doing, work in the trenches too, and testifying at hearings for Judiciary Committee, on bills, things like that. I mean, the NRA really does serve a purpose, whether or not you agree with all of their tactics and the way that they do things, and the fact that they have been instrumental in every major gun ban that's come along. You don't have to like that part to admit that they do occasionally get some stuff right as well. That's just like saying, I would never say that Planned Parenthood is 100% terrible or evil. Yes, they do more abortions than anything else. They do some great stuff as well. I can't argue with that. So I'm not saying that the organization needs to necessarily go away. I just wish that we didn't give them money as a government. I can't stand my money going there, but that's different. So anyway, back on track. Nighthawk Medic Shoots, where can we find you, and what would you like to add before the end of the night?
I want to add that I am again honored to have participated in your show, Sandhills, and you can find me on Facebook.com, Nighthawk Medic Shoots, YouTube.com, Nighthawk Medic Shoots, and Full30.com, Nighthawk Medic Shoots. Can't even say my own name.
Nighthawk sounds really cool too.
Nighthook's pretty cool too. I might do a FUD channel. But here's the truth. Really, all of this starts by voting, right? Going out and let your voice being heard. So as I close all my videos, hey, make sure you encourage somebody, a new person, to shoot and get out and vote. in your local and the national election, because at this moment we may just be buying ourselves some time. And thank you again, Sandhills. It's always an honor to be here, sir.
Well, thanks for being here. You've blessed me just like everybody else has to be on the panel. As far as getting out and vote, don't just go vote Republican. Don't just go vote Democrat. Go out and actually vet your candidates. Check them out. See who they are. Vote for the best person. It doesn't matter what the letter is behind their name. If they're going to do the best job, they get your vote. That's how it should be. Do not vote partisan. That is the stupidest thing in the world, no matter which party you are. If the third party candidate's the best candidate, vote for him. If 50% plus one decide to vote for that third party candidate, guess what? It wasn't a wasted vote, was it? Anyway, I'm not for the third party candidate this year for president because she's okay with people murdering unborn humans. But despite that fact, I'm not saying that there's not room for a third party candidate. And I definitely don't think that we should have partisan politics. That's dumb. Pat Hirsch, thanks for joining us tonight. What do you want to throw in there before we're all done?
I just wanted to say thank you for having me on tonight. It was definitely a good conversation and a good topic tonight. I just wanted to throw in a little bit something in there, springboard off of what you said earlier on the COVID deal. Measles, mumps, rubella, whooping cough, hell, even the plague. Always had some kind of serum at the end. But yet nobody changed their lifestyle, didn't go out. They knew the risks. They knew what was going to happen. It wasn't as disruptive as what this is today. And I just want to leave a little food for thought.
All those diseases, even though we have vaccines for them today, they're still here. They are not gone off the planet.
Exactly. It's just like those. I mean, it's something until somebody comes up with a serum or a vaccine or what have you. Guess what? Everybody in the world has to live with it. So
exactly right.
Awesome. The disruption.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for being here tonight and joining us. Defense Dad, I stuck you in the cleanup batting position here, so you get to go forth. Any final thoughts, and then any cool videos where you've just been beside yourself about a certain topic lately?
Well, first off, I know we're closing up, but just to go off what you're saying about
that's fine.
errands and everything. So whether you believe in wearing a mask or not, don't go off on those employees that have to ask you that. Coming from someone who works at a retail situation in a city that has a mask mandate, and their corporate office makes you tell people, and we provide them for you, to be in the store, you have to wear a mask unless you can prove it's a medical reason. Don't go off on that employee. They're there. They've avoided furlough. They still have their job. They can't afford to quit their job on principle. They hate asking people. But just be polite about it. If you want to leave, leave. And I hate saying that because I'm also on commission, so I have to enforce that. So just be respectful for it. They don't want to cause you hard problems about it.
Exactly right.
Other than that, yeah, made some kind of fun videos lately. Me and my alter ego, and check out Defense Dad, but check out everybody else's sites that are on here tonight. Everybody's got good content, and we have fun doing it. And shoot safe.
Now, a lot of you out there don't realize this, but Defense Dad has actually perfected the cloning process, much like they did to Michael Keaton in the movie Multiplicity. And there are actually 2 Defense Dads out there running around right now so that he can actually go to work and still go to the range at the same time. And we have proof of this in that latest video. So go to Defense Dad's channel, check out that latest video. It is amazing. I know that you're relatively new into this world, and I've been doing this for a couple years, but I don't know how to do what you did. And so, honestly, I have a better, it'll be easier for me to believe you actually successfully cloned yourself than to admit that you're better at editing than I am, and you only use a phone, and I've got a desktop computer for it.
It's kind of fun. I haven't used it in a lot of years, but my degree is actually in graphic arts. So I'm kind of
okay. So maybe that's part of it. And my degree is I haven't finished it ever, so we've got that happening. Anyway, thanks for being here. And thank you to Yehuda Reamer for jumping in. He had to go, and I was talking before he had a chance to sign off and say goodnight. So he just kind of jumped out, but he did have to go and do the dad thing. So thank you, Yehuda, for being with us. And if you catch up with us later on, you'll get to hear that. We are very, very blessed to have him doing what he is doing as well. Go to the Pew Pew Jews website. It's just thepewpewjew.com, I believe. And check out his cool books. He's got some great books for talking to kids about gun safety. So go check those out. There's even some coloring book versions of them. So with that, I think we are going to go to the list and just see everybody that was out there in the chats so far. Facebook tonight, we didn't have as many people. And I don't know that necessarily we can see everybody that's on there and it gets reported the right way. But we had Toby, we had Chrissy, we had Shelbert, and we had Dwayne out there watching on the Facebook side. On the YouTube side, we had Nighthawk Medic, Republican River Rat, G23, Patriot in the Dark, The Poor Conservative, Justin Gibbons, Iron Horseman, Keith Gregory, James Allen, Blitz, Defense Dad, Jefferson Martial Arts, Schofield 63, Vash Matrix, Seven Wonders, Gun Loving Grandpa, Guy That Comments, Armament and Axes. Again, thank you for that super chat. We love you. Uplift Mofo Party Plan. I've not seen that name before. Welcome. That's awesome. Midnight Range TM. Hey, other Travis. Mike, M. Gabriel, Blue Steel 44, and Dead Horse. If we've missed anybody, it's because you didn't comment enough and we didn't get your name written down. And if you're not commenting at all on the YouTube side, we cannot see you. And so we don't get to say your name, and thank you for joining us at the end of the night. So with that being said, you know how I end these. Without you guys out there watching, we don't have a chat. We don't have a reason to do this. We could just have a Zoom call and not broadcast it, and agree to agree on most things and agree to disagree on a few things, and that would be the end of it. So the fact that you're out there watching and hopefully sharing and liking and hitting the thumbs up, spreading this around and getting this in front of other people, that means all the world to us. So go check out everybody that's on this panel. Go find them at the places where you can find them. Go check out the Stop Gun Bans podcast as well and add that to your list of things to listen to. And again, thanks to Yehuda, thanks to Pat and Defense Dad, Nighthawk, and Michael. On behalf of Sandhills Sweetheart and myself, we love all of you. God bless all of you. Check us out on patreon.com/sandhillsshooter. Check us out on gunstreamer.com/sandhillsshooter. We're not only here on the YouTubes, not only here on the Facebook. So go find us there. Go find Sandhills Sweetheart on Facebook as well. And give her page a like and comment too, and let her know you were there. I think that's it. I don't think I've left anything out. Karen, I'm sorry if I offended you, but like I said, that's how we as gun owners feel when we get singled out for something that we didn't do, or as a group, we get blamed for something that one idiot did. So sorry about that, but also not sorry. Sometimes I'm unapologetic. Sometimes I'm quite irreverent. It just happens. I'm me. Thanks, guys. We love you. God bless you. Get off my lawn.